The PocketGo is a small budget retro gaming handheld. It comes with a 240 by 320 display measuring 2.4 inches across. It has an all-winner F1C100S ARM processor, 32 megabytes of RAM, 4 face buttons, plus LNR, micro USB for charging, a headphone jack, and a port for video out. It does come with 8 gigabytes of internal micro SD storage in its cheapest configuration, but that is user replaceable. This thing is also small, really standing up to the Pocket name. In regards to hardware, the PocketGo has a nice feel to it. The buttons are responsive and have good actuation, though the D-pad does come off a little mushy. The housing is made of plastic and feels solid in the hands, although there is a bit of flex to the unit. The PocketGo does come standard with black and purple buttons, but those are user replaceable. The colored buttons do make the handheld look better in my opinion, but installing them involves major surgery, so be prepared to spend some time taking it apart and be okay if you break a few snaps. Not really a required change, so I can't really dock the company for giving me the option, but I wish it was available as a pre-installed option as well. One oddity is the power and volume controls operate in reverse of what I would expect, with down not being the power on, volume up. The battery is built in and lasts about 4 hours. The screen is nice and bright and has great viewing angles. The display is on the small side, so reading text in some games and menus can be hard, but the screen is sharp and the colors are vibrant. It is only 30 Hz, although you wouldn't really notice in most situations. The front panel of the screen is raised slightly from the main housing, so it may scratch a bit easier because of this, but for the most part it shouldn't be an issue. Speaker quality is on the tinny side, and there is only one speaker mounted in the front right. The speaker doesn't get covered while playing, which is a good thing, and opting for mono and emulation does free up a few CPU cycles, but it would have been nice to have stereo. Like most emulation devices, the software on this device is user replaceable, so if something isn't to your liking, you can change it. But since many of the people will be fine with the default software and configuration, that's what I'll cover here. The interface defaults to English, which makes jumping in easy, with additional languages in the settings menu. It does come with several apps pre-installed, like a terminal music player if you want your device to do more than just game, but note that the PocketGo is a tiny computer and not just a traditional Game Boy or PSP. So if you turn off the device without following proper shutdown procedures, it will run additional checks for data loss when you turn it back on, something that can take some time if you have a large micro SD. You can adjust the brightness in the main menu by pressing Select and R. But this doesn't seem to work while you're playing a game in the latest firmware. There are 24 different emulators installed, though some of them are repeats. Amiga, Game Boy, GBA, NES, SNES, Pocket SNES, Master System, ColecoVision, Mega Drive, Atari 2600, Lynx, TurboGrafx, Arcade, FBA, Neo-Geo, DOS, Pokémini, Wonderswan, PlayStation, Vectrex, MSX, and 3 different Game Boy ones that support Rumble. Yes, this budget device does support Rumble. Very few games work with it, but yes, it is there. There are also a large number of shareware games on here, like Doom and Quake, if you are interested. Many of the emulators did come with games pre-installed too, so you're all ready to go right out of the box. In terms of emulation quality, I did have one crash while trying Iridium 2 for GBA, but that was the only case and your mileage may vary. Performance is overall pretty strong for older retro games I tested, but GBA and higher was hit or miss. Most games would run at the correct speed, but there were cases where GBA would slow down, and older games that required special chips, like Yoshi's Island, also chug. In many cases, it's actually faster than the LDK game, but I suspect the lower amount of RAM hampers its performance somewhat. Overclocking didn't seem to help in these cases. Not too big of a deal, especially considering when there are so many consoles you can run correctly with minimal frame skip, but something to note. Like the LDK game, the suspend button sometimes brings up a menu, and other times it uses start and select, which is mildly annoying. Some emulator menus also use the B button to select instead of A. One thing to mention is this device does run an ARM processor and not MIPS like many of its competitors. This does make it perform better in some cases, but it does mean that any emulator written for MIPS specifically won't work. But even with that, it's a sub $30 handheld. It isn't a powerhouse, but for all the games it can play, it's something of a steal. The included micro SD card has roughly 6 gigabytes of space available on it, which isn't a lot, but still plenty to put hundreds of games on it. It's not the fastest handheld you could buy. It doesn't even have a dedicated card slot, or you can't even transfer data over the micro USB, and it doesn't even have MIP software. But if you want gaming in your pocket on a budget, this is the way to go.